Stellaris Guide DLC tier list. So I tried the tier list maker and it turned out to be more trouble than it's worth. So I'm just going to list them verbally in order of F to S tier. So remember, this is just my opinion. I may put something in the F tier because I just don't use it and I'm not motivated to, like I do with an A tier where I'm using its features all the time and I enjoy it. Another thing too is just because the expansion is in the F tier doesn't mean it's bad. It just means out of all the expansions, it had the least appeal to me and has not really changed my gameplay all that much. Also, I'm not covering non-expansion DLC like species and story packs. I may do that in another video. The list of DLC I'm covering is the following: Overlord, Utopia, Apocolypse, Megacorp, Federations, and Nemesis. So if you're hesitant about DLC because of the price, I recommend waiting till it's on sale and purchasing it bit by bit. The DLC is on sale often on Steam. I would also recommend any DLC in the B tier or above. Find out what order I recommend these expansions by the end of this video. So without further ado, let's begin. In F tier we have Nemesis. The only thing I found intriguing about the content was becoming the Crisis. I'm going to try it at some point, but I still haven't got around to it, and the pack hasn't given me enough reason to try it. There's nothing in the pack that makes me go, oh my god, I have to have this in each playthrough. Now again, I'm not saying Nemesis is bad or unplayable. I'm sure there are some of you that are like, dude, what are you talking about? Becoming the Crisis is awesome and alone makes Nemesis worth it. So take what I say as an opinion. By the way, I own all the expansions, so I'm not putting it here just because I don't have it. Next is D tier, and that would be Apocolypse. The only thing I've used from time to time from this pack or I've been motivated to use is Titans. The problem is that in the Orion meta, Titans like battleships just aren't as powerful now based on my experience and don't really fit in with my builds that I use. I like having lots of planets and taking them for my enemies, so I haven't really been motivated to try planet killing that much. Also, AI empires will declare war on you, especially ones that don't like you if you start building colossi. I don't even notice the rest of the features. Again, just like with Nemesis with being the Crisis, you may think planet killing is awesome. Again, not bad, I just don't use it that much. Compared to the other packs, it's just not as useful to me overall. Now for C tier. This spot goes to Federations. Federations is higher than the previously mentioned because mega shipyards are quite useful, and having Federation types can be useful when you're in a Federation. The problem and why it's not higher is that out of all my playthroughs with the AI, I have only gotten into a Federation once, and the other times I tried, I was not able to garner the acceptance needed to form or get voted into a Federation. Also, having to take the diplomacy tradition tree that isn't really useful to me outside of the ability to form a Federation is a big minus. But like with Nemesis and Apocolypse, I may get into the main feature at some point and change my mind about it. The thing I don't like about these three packs is that their main feature requires you to focus and plan completely around that strategy from the moment you hit the play button. They are mostly niche content. I had to put something in B tier, but really this pack deserves to be higher, and that is Megacorp. This is one of the DLCs I highly recommend, just not as much as the next two expansions on this list. Megacorp perhaps has more usable content than any other DLC. The reason it's B tier is because while useful, the content is not as powerful or game-changing as the content in the next two expansions. Don't get me wrong, they are very good additions and very useful. Also, this pack is a little more niche than the next two, as a big part of the content is centered around playing various trade builds. So if you don't like trade at all, I could see you putting this pack at a lower tier. Despite that, Megacorp is amazing, having many of the most useful endgame megastructures available in the game. Matter decompressors for thousands of monthly minerals, strategic coordination centers for naval power, and a mega art installation for Unity. Another amazing addition is the Ecumenopolis Arcology or City Worlds. These are great for Unity, population, alloys, or consumer goods. Super powerful and useful. So to sum it up, I recommend Megacorp because there isn't a single feature from Megacorp that hasn't impacted my games in some meaningful way. Oh, and one last thing about Megacorp. I flippin' hate criminal syndicates, nuff said. Otherwise, very happy with this DLC, and it's a shame I can't place it higher. So it's down to the last two, and I'm probably going to get some flack for my next choice. There are many people that strongly dislike this next DLC, and I think it's the most controversial out of all the DLC. You guessed it, A tier goes to the most recent pack, the Overlord expansion. Like Megacorp, I wanted to put this higher, but there is some content that I don't consider very useful, and there isn't as much content on the surface as, say, Megacorp. But the quality of the content is where this pack shines. The content it does have is so impactful, powerful, and useful that there is only one other pack, in my opinion, that can beat it. I think Overlord gets a lot of hate because it forces players to get good with vassals. But I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, one of the very useful features are the vassal specializations. With enough influence, you can make vassals and your empire much more powerful and useful to where you just completely dominate the galaxy. I highly recommend trying out Prospectorum if you get this DLC. You won't go back. The next very useful and powerful feature is hyper relays. This feature is very anti-computer AI, as the AI loves to play ring around the rosy and attack areas where you don't have your fleets, even at their own detriment. This AI behavior is not limited to Stellaris. Many RTSs and 4X games adopt this infuriating strategy with their AI. Hyper relays make this strategy impossible, as once you built a network, you can be anywhere in the galaxy in a flash. It is like having a space railroad in your empire. You can easily stop the AI from taking the backdoor approach. Not only that, it increases stability in connected planets and gives many other bonuses as well. The strongest thing about it is how early you can get it. You can get a full network by early mid-game, whereas it takes well into endgame to start having gateways, the only other effective means of getting around the galaxy. This alone makes this DLC worth it by itself and super fun. Orbital rings are also amazing. They improve your planets in many ways and can make low-quality worlds more useful. They are considered starbases, but don't go towards your starbase cap, a very relevant addition to the game. So in summary, if you're not interested in getting vassals and don't like the Orion changes, I could see you wanting to give this DLC a thumbs down. But if you look past that and actually try out the features, this is a solid, powerful, and useful pack. Also, I plan on coming out with a vassal guide at some point, and it might be out already. Watch that if it exists and give vassals another chance. Also, diplomacy isn't the only way to get vassals. If you bully an empire enough, you can forcefully vassalize them. You can also bully an overlord to take their vassals from them. So don't believe the reviews about the game being impossible now or antisocial playstyles being unplayable. It just may take more work and skill depending on what your strat is. I hate to be like every other YouTuber that has ever done a tier list on Stellaris DLC, but I have to put Utopia as S tier. It's just too good. So why did I put this as S tier and not Overlord or Megacorp if I like them so much? Well, for one, every feature in the pack, bar none, is very useful or potentially very useful. The quality of the content is the best, hands down. Dyson spheres are perhaps the best megastructure available right now. Ring worlds aren't as useful as Dyson spheres, but are still good. But the biggest reason it's S tier is orbital habitats. Orbital habitats alone put it in S tier. I did a whole video on habitats I encourage you to watch. Once you use them and watch the video, you won't want to play the base game by itself. Orbital habitats are unmatched in their ability to let you play tall. Tall meaning not a lot of systems, but still very powerful. So if you like building tall empires, this DLC is an absolute must. Orbital habitats fix so many RNG problems in game too. Didn't find enough mineral districts? Make a mineral habitat. Same with energy credits and food. In fact, you can build a habitat for just about any function you can think of. Super powerful. Another great feature is ascension paths. There is a path to fit just about any playstyle. Like robots, there's a tradition for that. Like cyborgs, that's a thing too. Like genetic alteration, there's genetics. Like war, Eater of Worlds Covenant, the list goes on. You also get to play Hive Mind, one of the most powerful ethics in the game at the creation of this video. All of this makes Utopia the king of DLC. So of course, I highly recommend getting this one, especially if you're new to DLC and don't know what to get first. This was the first DLC I ever picked up and I love it. No regrets. And I even paid full price for it. So the list goes as follows. In the F tier, we have Nemesis, D tier is Apocolypse, C tier is Federations. In the B tier, we have Megacorp, A tier is Overlord, and in S tier, we have Utopia. Let me know your opinion in the comments. So what DLC expansions should you get, and which ones can you pass on? Well, I would definitely get Utopia, Overlord, and Megacorp for a complete DLC experience. Federations is kind of in the middle because Mega Shipyards is pretty good, and if Federations and heavy diplomacy is your thing, then it's easily a must as well, but it is more optional in my opinion than required. Apocolypse and Nemesis are niche and optional. Get them if you're bored and or want to try something new. That's it. If you like my stuff, you know what to do. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.